So welcome everyone. My name is Dave Kirby. This is my co-host Sean Domi.
Hello.
Want to thank you for joining us today on another day of the life of a successful voiceover artist with Lisa Unrau. How you doing, Lisa?
Great. How are you guys?
We're good. We're
Good.
good. Thanks so much for being with us.
It's fun. I'm glad to be here.
So to get us started, we're going to ask Lisa some questions about her background, her home studio, audition strategies, and as we're asking questions, we want you guys because it's for everybody watching. To take advantage of the Q&A panel there, we are going to get to your questions after we get a little more caught up to speed with Lisa. If we don't get to your question, it's just because we ran out of time. Feel free to email your account manager, and if you don't know who that is, that's the person who you're getting all the email correspondence from us. And if you still don't know, just get in touch with us. We'll let you know who your account manager is. We want to make sure that all questions get answered. But yeah, so I guess a little bit about Lisa. Now for years, her voice was just a sidebar to other jobs like journalism and video production, used primarily for singing and laughing. And through voiceover work, she's found a way to put that voice to work and is content now in her home studio, recording all manner of projects, including documentaries, e-learning, training videos, commercials. She's still learning every day and gets a big kick out of the endless challenges in each day's scripts. She's also an independent video producer and plays in a sassy bluegrass classic rock band. So, did I nail it all, Lisa?
How did you know all that about me?
Well, we have writers that do all sorts of digging, and so we might have some questions here that you might not. No, I'm just kidding. Um,
Okay.
I guess just for starters, what did you do before voiceover?
So it came up as a connection to my work in journalism because I would produce my own stories and sometimes have to narrate them for both TV and radio. And so you would just sort of take a crack at it and try to put on your journalism voice or try to sound whatever it was. And you sort of start feeling it out that way. And so you get a little experience as an on-air presenter, basically. And it's just a sideways step from there to narrate somebody else's stuff if they need you and they don't have anybody else handy. And so I started doing it that way. Some local sort of audio engineers became familiar with me because of that, and they'd say, well, you know what, can you come in and voice a commercial next week? And so I began doing a little bit of voiceover in my own community of Saskatoon here locally, but there's not that much. So it would come up a couple times a year. But as the years went by, I became comfortable enough doing it that it seemed interesting to me.
So, how did you hear about voices.com?
Well, as the idea of voicing became more interesting to me, I thought there's got to be a way to do more than just what comes up in Saskatoon, which is not very much. And so, Dr. Google suggested that voices.com was kind of the place to go. Also, as a video producer, I've had a few opportunities to hire voice talent as well to narrate projects that I was working on. So I've been on the hiring end a few times, and I can see from the other side how the process works, and it seemed very interesting to me, the different variety of voices that would audition for a job and the different approaches people take. It's a huge difference from voice to voice.
So voices.com then was pretty much your first step in the process then.
Yes.
Now, have you worked at all with a coach since getting started, or has this just been kind of a transition where you've kind of taught yourself? How's that happened?
I spent a long time trying to teach myself, but maybe not learning very much, I don't know. But just a few months ago, I actually engaged a coach, Tommy Griffiths, and he was recommended to me by a voices.com person. He said, this is the guy a lot of voices.com talent use. Why don't you get in touch with him? So I did. I messaged him, and we did through Zoom, through the same interface that we're using right now. I had 3 sessions with him, and he helped me hear some of the things that I had kind of become deaf to and wasn't hearing my own habits. And so it gave me a few things to work on.
No, I'm curious about that because I know we have worked with Tommy for quite a while. He's very good. I'm just curious, what kind of things did he help you with?
Super interesting. He asked me what I wanted to learn, and I said, I'm able to land a lot of jobs where I essentially sound like me. Like there's one flavor of Lisa, and it's kind of informational. And I said, I want to broaden my range. I want to do stuff that's where there are different Lisas. I want to be characters. I want to land commercials where I have to bring out a different side of my voice, different emotions. And I said, I don't feel like I'm able to do that right now. And so he provided me with different scripts to try. And then he'd say, okay, read this. This time hit it like you're angry. Okay, now read it like it's really understated and just informational. Then he'd play it back to me and say, where's the anger? I thought I told you to be angry. I was like, that is my anger. He's like, no, I don't hear any anger there. You've got to work on it. You've got to feel it while you're reading it. So it was a lot of stuff like that, like actually trying to put yourself into the script while you're reading it, feel something, and make those feelings come out in your voice.
Do you have kids?
No, I don't.
I was going to say, because that would be the easiest way to be able to tap into those emotions.
He asked me, he said, like, you have a husband, don't you get mad at him sometimes? And I was like, yes, but I would never say it out loud. And he's like, okay, right after you get off this call with me, go get some counseling. You've got to learn how to get angry. So, yeah, emotional range.
We had someone ask who we were talking about again. That's Tommy Griffiths. He's a voiceover coach that we work with, and he's great at helping people. It's funny how you can just be missing one little aspect of your game, and he can point it out just like that, and he makes a world of difference. He really is fantastic.
Mm-hmm. He does. He has an ear. Like he was hearing things and you develop habits. After you do, especially if you do a ton of auditions every day, you have a voice that you fall back on. It's your go-to voice. And it's like, this is how I talk when I'm trying to sound, encouraging or informational, blah, blah, blah. And it's almost automatic. I'm like a robot when I'm doing it. I'm not hearing what inflection I'm putting into certain phrases that might not even be appropriate, because it's just coming out automatically. And you have to learn to listen every time.
So how would you describe that sound? So you were saying you had that one sound and Tommy kind of helped you find different ones. How would you describe your sound?
My sound? It's this sound that you're hearing right now. It's Lisa. It's pleasant and ranging between neutral and reassuring, I would say. Mostly warm. I would say it's a mostly warm approach to communicating.
Mostly warm. And so the first job you ever booked with us, you just use your regular conversational voice like that. Could you tell us a little more about the first job that you booked with us?
I don't know if this was the very first job, but one of the first jobs I booked was a client direct, not through an account manager, but like a self-serve job from a company in Alabama. And I thought, I'm about 1,000,000 miles north of you. Doesn't my accent bother you? But he was like, no, you sound pretty normal to me. Just a few vowels, a few Canadian vowels that are a little bit closed that I can sort of Americanize them a little bit if need be. And it was just a product demo for some handy thing that was being promoted. That was my first job. And we spoke on the phone and I was really excited. I was like, there's a human being in Alabama who wants to give me money for my voice right now. This is pretty great.
So speaking as a couple of fellow Canadians, I'm guessing there were no outs and abouts in the scripting.
Out. It was all out and about. No, I don't know.
How long did it take you to get that first job after you signed up with us?
I was maybe putting auditions through for a couple of weeks or a month before something happened. But I didn't give up because you'd get likes periodically. Somebody likes me. They didn't hire me, but they like me, so I'm still in the game. And you don't know that there's a lot of jobs that are still hanging that haven't been hired yet. And it's like, well, maybe they'll hire me yet. So I'll just keep going and keep waiting, And so the first one came, and it was close to Christmas when I started. So I didn't know whether everybody would be shut down for a lot of December and January, or whether I might still get a few jobs. And I actually did get a few more jobs during that holiday season. One was a really long form job for, it was like the audio for a like a driver's exam. So it was about 1,000,000 short files where it was just like, question, answer A, answer B, answer C. And there would be hundreds and hundreds of these question and answers that I had to divide up into little files. And it took hours and hours and hours of my life. But I was pleased nonetheless to have the job. I thought it was great.
Well, and it's good that you were diligent enough to keep going, and that's the one of the things we can't stress enough. You know, when you're getting started, I mean, it's so tough to, I don't want to say to get that first job, but the first job is the most important, because that's the one that tells you that, first of all, that okay, one person hired me, someone else will hire me. Secondly, a lot of people don't realize when you audition on an online platform, you're auditioning your technical skills as much as your voice. And so to get that first job means that your audio is up to par. And at that point now, just audition to everything and just, let things fall in.
Yeah, exactly. I noticed that when I was hiring for voices that most people would have good, clean audio and good enough to be considered, but there'd be a few who were automatically eliminated because if that's the audio that they audition with, I knew that's the audio I'd get if I hired them, and it wouldn't work for the video project. And so I knew when I started, well, I have to make at least good, clean audio that somebody can use. So,
Now,
yeah.
you're also an accomplished singer and voice coach. Do you feel that your training and background, plays a role in the work that you book?
I don't know if it does. I think being having a background in music makes me appreciate sound, makes me really enjoy being in this sort of soup of sound all day. I enjoy listening to other people's work, and I enjoy fine-tuning my own and editing. Sort of, it's something I enjoy.
Do you find yourself practicing a lot outside of doing auditions, or is that basically the auditions? Does that help you stay on top of things?
I think maybe the auditions do help. Each one is like a little rehearsal. I used to do a batch of auditions and then later go and edit and upload them. And I've started editing each one immediately after recording it so that I can listen back to what I've just done and try to apply, the wisdom of Tommy and also my own ear and say, what did I just do there? Is that what I really meant to do? Was I really thinking about this? Yeah, that's part of my process now.
When you started out as a guest member, what made you take that leap and become a premium member with us?
I was really on the fence about it. I really didn't know how I could find out for sure whether it would be successful. I felt I just had to take a chance because I had a gut feeling that I was going to be okay at this. I didn't know for sure if it would amount to a full-time job or anything like that, but I thought at least I'm going to recoup my costs. I'm just going to work hard enough to make sure that, that I break even on this thing, and then I will have learned something. So I just had to try.
Well, and you know what? You make a really excellent point. It's as far as the breaking even goes. I mean, the average job on the site pays, I think the last time we looked was about $325. So it doesn't take a lot to make that back. But in the bigger picture, that first year, you can't look at it either as in how many jobs am I going to get, but how many contacts am I going to make? Like you'd mentioned the jobs that you're getting liked on. That doesn't mean you got hired, but that means you got shortlisted and you made your mark with that particular client. With over 200,000 clients around the world, if you can start making your mark with these people, even if they didn't hire you that time, they're probably going to come back and take another look at you a little later on, and you start building that repeat business. Have you established that yet? Have you gotten any repeat business yet?
There are a few I've been pleased to discover, and I hope there will be more. I hope I can make more of that happen. But yeah, I've noticed a few clients have come back to me directly and said, we have another project. Can you kind of do a similar tone that you did for our last thing? If it makes it easier for them, if they have a voice talent that they sort of know what they're going to get, I think sometimes they will do that. And then they know that you're low maintenance and will deliver your stuff in a timely fashion and whatever. I think it probably makes their job easier. And then it is a nice relationship, actually. It's kind of like we're working together. I understand what you're talking about. It's nice.
So when you were starting out, what kind of financial investment did you have to make to get into voiceover, like with equipment, with marketing, even the coaching? Can you tell us a little more about that?
Sure. I invested very little to begin with because I thought, well, I don't know, this is just a Hail Mary. This might amount to nothing. So I'm going to use the microphone I have, which at that time was an AT2020, a condenser mic. It had been given to me earlier to use for music, but it seemed it would work well enough to start with voiceover. So, and I think I made my own pop filter to start with too. I think I just put nylons over a coat hanger frame because I didn't even want to spend $14 on a pop filter, which is ridiculous because, $14. But that's what I did, and I didn't have this studio at that time. I had various attempts at finding soft, quiet, relatively dead audio spaces in the house, which were not easy to find. I remember one time early on, I got a job from, Sean Penn's charity for Haiti. It's called Haiti Takes Root, and it's one of his charities. There was a company in LA that was making a video for that charity, and they got in touch with me, and they're like, but we want to record it right away, and we want to record it live, so let's go. Up to that point, I hadn't had to do any live recordings with direction over the phone, and they assumed I was in a studio with an engineer and that I would be able to manage all of these things. And it was a clunky process because I wasn't really prepared for that. And I was trying to be all, oh, yes, no problem. Hang on, sir. And I was literally in a closet with my little AT2020 microphone and a little Zoom audio recorder just trying to record these files. And eventually I got the files to him and he was very happy. By him, I don't mean Sean Penn. I mean like the dude I was talking to at the LA agency or whatever. But I felt like, oh my gosh, well, the stakes are very high. Probably Sean Penn will be listening to this immediately and, we'll be best friends. So I better do a good job. But maybe that's my favorite job because it was memorable for sure.
So you didn't really have, the studio that you have now, obviously. It was probably something very, was like, were you working out of I know a lot of people start out in a closet.
It was a closet. It was literally a closet. There was no room to move my hands. There was nothing. It was quite difficult, actually.
Any issues with audio quality doing it that way?
Periodically, you'd have an issue with banging into a coat hanger or a passing cat wandering by and making noise. But yeah, as long as the house is quiet. It actually, if I listen to those early recordings, they're not terrible, really. If you have a kind of okay microphone and a quiet place that has some acoustic treatment that isn't just bouncy, glass everywhere or something, I think you can get a decent recording. Just listen back to it and see what's wrong with it. See if you need to put more soft stuff around you or whatever it may be.
What are you using now as far as equipment goes between a mic, software?
So now I record into and edit in Adobe Audition. I'm using this microphone right here, which is a Neumann TLM 103, which I think is pretty nice. I like it a lot more than my
the Neumanns,
my old mic.
they're pretty nice. It's
Yeah.
a Cadillac of microphones.
Yeah, it's not the top of the line by any means, but my foot's in the door
It's a
of
pretty good
decent
one.
gear now. And I've got it on this sort of boom so that I can, position myself properly. I've got a little interface that runs that mic into my computer, so I just sort of stand at my computer and, enable record in Audition, start talking, and, yeah. And then I go back and clean it up a little before I send it away.
A real pop filter, not nylon.
Yes.
Great.
It's boring, just black,
And the booth behind you, you kind of set that up as well.
Yeah, this is actually in the basement of my house, and my husband kind of built this. I told him I wanted uh, a recording booth, and he said, well, the basement walls are 10-inch concrete, so there's not going to be much noise getting in through there, so we'll build you a well-insulated little box, and then you can treat it however you want acoustically inside. And he also created little ports for all my audio cables to go through so that the computer body is actually outside of this room, so I don't hear the fan or anything. So all I have in here is the monitor, keyboard, and an interface and microphone. So it's like my little sanctuary.
That's great. So did you record all your demos in there? Like, how many demos do you currently have up on your profile with us?
There's a bunch up there. I think I can't remember how many. It's in the teens, isn't it? You guys can probably see it.
And did you where did you find this material? Like, how did you get those demos up there originally?
The first ones I put up were existing recordings of finished projects I'd done here for local clients, like, local businesses or banks or educational institutes or what have you. I'd take those finished bits of audio because they already had music in the background and so on, and they sounded proper. And then I did a few here. I can't remember what I used for material.
Now, have you found that the demos that you've uploaded are, because it'll tell you how many times they've been listened to, do you find that they get listened to an awful lot?
Yeah, by the amount they get listened to, you'd think I'd be a millionaire. Boy, all those people should be hiring me. How could anyone be better than me? They should just hire me right now. Yeah, they've been listened to, thousands of times.
Wow, okay. The reason I ask is because a lot of the times we find that, and this is kind of what we let people know, is the main thing that is going to get you hired is the auditions, because it's a custom audition. That's why the clients like this site so much, because they'll have a certain project and they'll give you a piece of script that's from that project, and they want to hear how you sound reading that. So it gives them a more authentic feel than if they just hear a polished demo that you had done based on something that was nothing like what they're going for. But it's nice to see the demos getting listened to as well, and you took advantage of the ability to tag them with the descriptors, words that describe the style and the role. And how did you come up with those?
I think I might have been reading through some of the advice on voices.com, the help for talent, and it did suggest try to make sure each of your demos says everything you want it to say in both the tags and the descriptive paragraphs. And so I went through each one and really thought about, like, this represents a part of my voice that I haven't had a chance to brag about yet. What kind of tags can I add to this one that I haven't used on another one, or that that represent a part of my voice that I haven't had a chance to amplify on Voices yet. And so and also I thought about, when I looked at the job postings, the kind of words people use when they ask for voices, a lot of the same ones come up again and again. They want, at least in the auditions that I receive that seem to be voice matches for me, people want conversational, they want natural, they want, authentic. So I tried to indicate that, yeah, I am those things. And so I'd use those as tags. And also other things that I thought maybe I'm particularly good at, that might give them an idea of something I can do that maybe not everybody can do, aspects of my voice that are really me, I thought, So.
Yeah, no, it's a very important, part of the profile, because it's what helps to match, you to the jobs that get posted every day. So, and we can't stress enough to people that's, what, you want to take full advantage of that, because, you may get a job that's, they don't ask for a lot of specifics. They'll say, we want a middle-aged English-speaking adult. Okay, well, that doesn't really separate
That's me,
anybody.
I'm perfect.
Exactly.
Yay, got it.
But when they ask for a lot of specifics, if you've got those in your demos, then yeah, that helps your voice match score. So Tell us about how a day in Lisa's world starts as far as voiceover goes. You get up. What's the first thing that you do? Is it check your email? Is it hit the auditions?
Sometimes, if I'm really on fire, I'll actually look at the auditions before I get out of bed. I'll like grab my phone and go, "What's awesome today?" But every day is not like that because alongside trying to make a living with voices, I'm also a video producer. And so if I'm at a busy time, if it's a busy week for video production, I'll have to build my schedule around that. So if I have any scheduled voice sessions, those will be on my calendar. And whatever video shoots or edits have to be done will be on my calendar. And the auditions will sort of be slotted in around that. Which is one of the great things about doing this work is that there is that flexibility. You can do it sort of when you need to do it or when you can do it, which is wonderful for me. I just recently extracted myself from a kind of a 9-to-5 employment situation and am now fully self-employed. And it's been about half a year, and I love it so much, being able to design my own schedule every day. It's a bit frantic sometimes, but it's well worth it. I really like it.
It's
So a
the
day in
ultimate
the life
dream.
of me is, coffee. Ideally, it's coffee and cats. The voice is waking up. And then if there's nothing else standing in my way, I will saunter down to my studio and just start going through auditions. If I don't have time to do a million auditions, I'll pick the ones that either scream Lisa, like, oh, come on, that's totally me. I can nail this one. I'm going to do this one. Or ones that, that indicate, oh, it's a 100% voice match. You've got to try this one. Or if it's really attractive to me and I just want it, it's like, that's a commercial I wish I could do and I want to do it. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try for it.
How many auditions do you typically do on an average day? If you got the time.
If I've got the time, I would do between 20 and 30.
And that would take you about how long?
Maybe 2 to 3 hours. If I'm investing a fair amount of time in editing them, which I may be spending too much time on that. I don't know.
If you're doing 20 or 30 auditions in a couple of hours, it sounds like you're doing things right, because that's about 10 auditions an hour. And that's usually what we tell people to shoot for. Because, we usually say read about 10 or 15 seconds of a script. How much of a script do you normally read for an audition?
Sometimes I'll do up to 30.
And will you give them a full script or?
If the script they provide is just like a 15-second spot, I'll read the whole thing because I want them to hear how I, hit the ending of it or whatever. And I just hope that they don't, make off with my voice files. But usually I won't. Usually I'll just give them a piece of it.
So when you read a script, how do you tackle it? Do you print out a whole bunch of them? Do you have your computer in front of you? Kind of, do you read a whole bunch at once? Do you do one at a time? Kind of, what's your strategy with that?
Yeah, what I do is my computer monitor is right in front of me here as I'm standing at my microphone. I'll bring up an individual script and I'll read over it. This is Tommy's instruction. He says, read it silently, digest it, read it aloud to hear and feel what it feels like in your mouth, in your head. And then, don't record it before you've done that at least. And so I'll do that and I'll record it and then immediately go to that individual file, listen back to it. If I hate it, I'll redo it, or I'll just edit it right there and upload it and then move on to the next one.
Okay, great. And so you mentioned a little bit before on how you choose the audition. So you try to do 20 to 30, but sometimes you can only get a certain amount done. So what's your strategy in that? You look at high voice match scores, or you read the posting and do the ones you like the best? Kind of, how about that? What's your strategy for that?
I think my first priority is is picking ones that I feel are a good match to me. I think the voice match is usually a pretty good indicator, but sometimes, as you say, it's a good indicator only because they've asked for, you know, a reassuring middle-aged female, and I can tell more about it by looking at the script and saying, yeah, I've gotten a million jobs from scripts like this. I'm pretty sure I know what these guys are looking for. I often get jobs that are related to apps or, tech developments. Digital strategies, things that have a lot of techie jargon in them for some reason, even though I'm not really a techie person. The tone that most of these explainer videos seem to be shooting for seems to fall in my range, in my wheelhouse. So because I get a lot of those jobs, it's increased my confidence to expect that I can get those jobs. So I do audition for them because I feel like, hey, it's bread and butter. Let's get them.
Absolutely. Well, and I can tell just by hearing you that you would definitely be a good choice for that type of work. I also get a thought that you'd be good for, like, say, an orange juice commercial. So
Really?
kind of
I've
like
never
mom
gotten
setting
an
the
orange
breakfast
juice
table.
commercial. Do you
What's
know what
that?
else I've gotten? I've gotten specifically invited to do jobs for Jewish schools.
Okay.
And I don't know why. One was in Florida. I think that the orange juice reminded me of it. But yeah, a Jewish school in Florida and a Jewish school somewhere else. I think in Israel, actually. And I thought, well, that's interesting because I'm in Saskatoon and I don't know anything about the Jewish faith or, but they gave me some pronunciation tips and off I went.
You just need to know how to read a script, and that's the beauty of this industry is you can there's no limit to the types of jobs that are out there, and the you're going to get to a point where you look at your resume and say, wow, I've done voiceover for this and I've done voiceover for that, and there's absolutely no connection and a lot of things in between. What do you do when you go to audition? Because you can see how many other people have auditioned. Does that ever scare you off if you see a lot of other people auditioning?
It makes me think that perhaps the chances are a little slimmer than they would be otherwise, but it's not a huge time investment to try. And I've gotten some jobs where there have been 100 other people auditioning, and it's just you don't know what they're looking for. It might be you. It might be your voice that they connect with. Why not? It could be you as easily as anybody else. And so a high number of auditioners I don't think it should frighten you off. It doesn't frighten me off. There are other things that make me think like, this is a slim chance. I never get these jobs, but I'm going to try anyway. But it's not the high number of other people competing for the job that scares me away, because if I feel confident about it, I'm just going to try.
Well, and I think the fact that you said a lot of people is 100, I mean, you're bang on. But I think that probably puts a lot of minds at ease, because I've talked to people that say, oh, you guys have so many talent on the site. I mean, how many people am I up against? You're really not up against that many, because we break it down so much to make sure that the jobs that you're seeing are only the jobs that you're matched to. And we're a worldwide company covering 130 different languages and dialects. So it rules out the majority of people that you think you might be up against. Like typically on an audition, how many people do you see auditioning?
It's hard to say what's typical, because some people will post a job and leave it there for a couple of weeks, and then naturally they'll get lots of auditions. If it's only up for a couple of days, maybe there'll be 30 people auditioning. If it's a desirable one that a lot of people want, over a few days, maybe 30 to 50.
And obviously, I'm guessing then you see a difference with the budget. So if it's $100 job versus $1,000 job, you're going to see a big difference.
Exactly. Everybody auditions for the rich jobs.
Now, what's your theory on that? What's your philosophy? Do you go after the lower paying jobs at all? And if so, why? And if not, why not?
I do, because it's all relative, isn't it? I do a lot of, outside of voices, I do a lot of really hard work. Like, I can put in a lot of, pre-production and a lot of thought and a lot of labor and a lot of post-production to make a video that may only pay me as much as a couple of those low-paying voice jobs, which are relatively a lot easier on me in terms of the labor that it requires. So, yeah, this only pays $120 or something. That's $120. How hard did I have to work to make that? I don't know. Why not? Why not go for it? Especially if it looks like something that interests you, that you think you can do a good job of. So, it seems like there's a multitude of like $200 jobs out there, and that seems like it's not as many people are going for them as are going for the $2,000 jobs. But that's not a bad half a day work or something. Go for it.
When you consider the majority of these people that are posting, they're repeat clients. I mean, they have lots of jobs throughout the year. This one might be $100, but if you do it and they like you as someone to work with, guess who they're looking for next time they have another job, which might be $500 or $1,000.
Yeah, I think that's true, for sure.
And you always got to look at the word count as well, because it might be $200, but who knows? It could be 5 words or 10 words. It could
take a look, because it might be like 4,000 words, and if you didn't pay attention to that part, you might be like, oh, why did I say okay to that? That's crazy.
Very true, very true. So in the morning, you were talking a little bit about your day. Do you do any vocal exercises before you start auditioning for the day? Do you have any specific foods you eat or anything like that? Orange juice?
I try to hydrate a lot in the morning if I can. I drink coffee too, so I'm sure that's dehydrating me. So I have to drink lots of water. I actually, when I was a kid taking voice lessons, they beat a lot of vocal exercises into you, and so I sometimes, if I'm feeling like I need a little more warm up, I'll do them while I'm walking around the house, but not every day. If it's a day when I've already been conversing with people for an hour or so, that does naturally warm up your voice. I feel like it's sufficient. But the best vocal warm up is just to drive around in your car listening to music and singing along like an idiot, and then people see you at the stoplight and they laugh at you, but that's great because that really blows the carbon out of the pipes.
You have any specific songs you like to sing best, or
let's see now, depends what range I want to sharpen up, but a little AC/DC never hurt anybody. That's good. Gets the blood flowing.
Very good. Amazing. So, and then you'll get into your auditions. You'll warm up. You'll do your auditions. Do you have any productivity tips for everyone watching on how to work smarter and not harder?
I think I might have wasted a lot of time in the beginning spending perhaps too much time on individual auditions. Although that might be part of the learning process too. When you're starting, you might need to spend that time just to listen to yourself and hear what you're doing. But if you're like I was, spending a lot of time trying to clean up every tiny little noise out of it, or maybe you're investing too much time in the wrong end of it, and you might be better off, working on your delivery or technique, or getting some coaching, or spending time listening to what other people are doing. There's a lot of really talented voice actors out there. I enjoy listening to commercials a lot more now than I ever did because I can hear what people are doing. And they're really gifted. I can see the level of skill that's happening out there.
I think what we should probably move to the Q&A panel before we completely run out of time. I mean, we've just been having so much fun talking with you, and you've answered a lot of our questions, but we do have some questions from people watching, and so we'd like to try to get to as many of them as we can. A really good one here from Amy. Have you ever been asked to sing in voiceovers? Because she's a singer.
I auditioned for a singing one once. It was kind of ridiculous. I didn't get it. Yeah. It was for a Bic pen, and they had a really soulful song for the Bic pen. But I think it was going to be for like the South American market. It was sort of yeah, I didn't nail it at all.
How did that job posting look? I haven't seen one before that asks for singing because they do come up, but it's not anywhere near as frequent.
Yeah, it said in the title of the job something like singing, female, commercial. I don't know. It was enough to make me curious about it. And so they had provided a sample of what the Spanish language version sounded like. And then they provide the lyrics and the backing track. And you sort of play the backing track and then sing along with it and try to, you know, emulate what the original track had done. I don't think I did a very good job. It wasn't cool. I'd like to do that, though, if it was something that was more my style.
So awesome. So, I mean, obviously you had some experience as a singer. And I was wondering, somebody is asking here, is voices.com, are we mainly for experienced voiceover artists, or are we also good for beginners as well?
Well, I'm sure that you guys would probably agree, but I'd say beginners is a good place for beginners to start, particularly because there's lots of resources on voices.com to help beginners figure out how to do it. Like, if you have a voice, you kind of have the tools to get started. You can learn how to use that voice. You can teach yourself how to do it, I think, if you listen to what other people are doing and just try to do it back. Some people teach themselves to sing. I think you can teach yourself to do voiceovers too. And there'll certainly come a point where some coaching will help you. But as a beginner, take a shot at it. And ask somebody for feedback. Like if you're really sucking, maybe somebody should tell you, give you some pointers. Even people in your community, or people you can ask for their honest opinion. How does this sound? Does this sound? Would you listen to this? Because it's sometimes hard to be objective about your own voice. But yeah, beginners should try.
Absolutely, and that's such a great point because, and if we could stress enough to people that when you buy the membership, that's not the end of the relationship. That's the beginning of the relationship. You start doing some auditions. If you're not happy with the response you're getting after a couple of weeks, call us. Call your account manager. Call our support team, and we will listen to some auditions and say, okay, you know what? If we detect something that maybe is glaringly obvious, that maybe there's some reverb or your levels are off, yeah, I mean that's what we're here for. It's not okay, I'm in $400, let's see what happens. No, we want to help you all along the way with the resources on the site, the resources of the personnel here. I mean, you're buying an experience as well as, those hot leads on a daily basis. So absolutely, as a beginner, there is no better place to start because there's so much opportunity and so many people that you're going to make contacts with, in that first year especially.
Yeah. And it does seem like there are lots of self-service clients that are out there, and they open up the door, like they'll cast a net. And if you get an invitation to try this, to audition for this job, you're on basically equal footing with whoever else tries. Like you're in there. If you do a memorable job, you've got a chance.
Question from Dan. He's asking, have clients that you've met on Voices connected you with clients that they know who may not have posted on voices.com? Basically, how have you benefited from the connections that you've made so far?
Well, I've had some repeat clients, as I say, who've come back to me through Voices and sort of directly messaged me and said, let's work together again. And that's happened enough to be significant, I think, to feel like over time, and I've been doing it only for 1.5 years now, so I feel like perhaps as if I do it for more years, maybe that effect will grow even more and become a bigger part of my work. It hasn't resulted in a lot of contacts outside of voices.com, but I haven't really promoted myself outside of voices.com yet in terms of having a voice artist website and stuff like that, which I guess would be something else to explore. But so far I've kind of been working inside of voices.com, and that's where my work happens. But I see how potentially it could happen that if you become known, you know, to people, they could contact you and say, let's work together. Yeah, but
Well,
no,
and
I don't think I've had people passing my name to each other like, "Buddy said you were great. I'm going to hire you." But maybe that could happen. I don't know.
Well, and it's not a bad thing, to say right now I'm only obvious to the people that are within voices.com, because as the clients go, that's still 200,000 different clients who hire voice talent for their work. So that's pretty good exposure.
Yeah, yeah.
So we have a question here from Alicia. She's wondering how you set your budgets within a job. For example, like you'll see ranges, and how do you choose how much you're quoting for a specific job?
Sometimes I take the cue from the budget range that's stated for a job. Like if the job is posted and it says, okay, the budget is $250 to $500 for this job, and the script is, 500 words or something like that. And I'll look over the script and say, well, this looks like something I could knock off without too much difficulty. I'm going to quote sort of in the middle of this budget range so that, like, I'm getting compensated for what I think is fairly, for the work that seems to be there. I'm still learning about how much to quote for jobs. That's one of the things that is still seems a little bit slippery to me. There's quite a wide range of what people expect to pay for different kinds of jobs. Yeah. So I notice there are often jobs that are posted for $100 that are there's a little bit too much work involved. I don't want to do them. If it's $100, I want it to be kind of easy. But that's because I'm spoiled. $100 for nothing.
No, that kind of goes in part to the next part of the question that was asked by someone else that's watching, because she'd mentioned she's been on other sites and had issues getting paid. Maybe you want to talk about the system that voices.com has in place to make sure that you do get paid.
Yeah, I like this system. This is great because if there's a deadbeat that doesn't pay you, you just contact voices.com and say, like, hey, it's been like several months. I haven't heard from this guy. How do I get him to release payment? And the voices.com support team will just go and, gently squeeze the money out of him and lickety
Make it
split.
sound like Sopranos.
So far, I haven't been left high and dry ever. It's been very good. I'm very pleased.
Well, and you won't be. Actually, to kind of further that, what we do is when a client decides to hire you, we collect your payment and hold it in escrow before you do any of the work. And so this ensures that you get paid. Now, at that point, once the client signs off that you've done the work and they're happy with it, that's when we release those funds. If there's ever an issue, it's, because clients get busy, they'll have a project that requires, 100 different aspects of it. And they may forget that, I didn't let voices know that the voiceover part of it's done. And so at that point, we may need to reach out to them and say, we have talent here waiting to get paid, but there's provisions in place there on your profile to in those situations too. So you're not chasing people for money. And there's a reason why we call it the sure pay system.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's great. And I understand also because often our client will be a video production house. They have a client that may be, still giving them more script changes or still asking for this or that. And they can't really lock it down and say, we're done, because they don't know until their client signs off on the video. And so oftentimes I've found that's created a delay in me getting paid, but, you get paid eventually.
So we have a question from Craig here. He's wondering, when you're auditioning, do you use just your voice or do you include sound effects and music, bed tracks?
I only include extra stuff if people ask for it. Like one time, they wanted a sort of a sci-fi robot voice situation going on, so I did try to put that effect on my on the audition that I turned in. But usually it's just my voice, and they can imagine whatever sound effects they want to put in. I mean, I don't know what other people are doing. Maybe other people are going the second mile and putting extra sounds in, though.
No, no, we don't recommend. We say just, pure voices. I think dry reads are completely fine, and also it saves you time when you're auditioning, so you can get through as many auditions as possible.
Yeah.
So we also have a question from here. So we have an attendee here who's semi-retired and looking to get into voiceover at a later age. He's wondering if there's any hope for him, and especially because you've transitioned from full-time 9 to 5 job to voiceover. Do you think it'd be possible, especially once you have an established career or once you've retired? Do you think it's possible?
I think it might be a great job for somebody who's retired, because you don't want to do nothing. You want to still do something. This is a thing, like I say, you can manage your own schedule. I think, you can create a little space in your life for this and see how it goes. Why not? Especially if you've always had a hankering to do it. If it's something you always thought, like, I think I might be good at this. I think now is probably the time. And listen to commercials. You often hear mature voices out there. There's a place for them.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think it's a trend, right? That senior voices are actually becoming more and more.
The beauty is there's so much work out there that there's a niche for every voice. So I mean, it's especially in the English language, there's so much work. There are some languages that maybe don't get quite as much work, and we talk to those people individually about their circumstance and as far as the membership rates too. Another really good question, actually. Have you ever had a client completely change direction mid-project or adjust a script? And how do you handle that?
I often have script changes mid-project. Usually I try to state right at the outset in my quote, I say, this quote includes, X number of revisions. And in that, I'll allow for script changes as long as they're not sweeping redos, So you can either have a revision because you wanted to tweak the script in one place, or you can have a revision because you wanted me to read it differently. You didn't like my delivery. And so I'll say, if the budget seems generous enough, I'll say, this includes 3 rounds of revisions. And then if anything happens beyond that, we'll have to revisit and create a new agreement for that so that they know that's my expectation when we start working together. So I'll do those things, and I'll build it into my own expectation of what the job will be like, so that I don't feel like, oh my God, I have to go back and do more stuff. It's like, no, I said I would do more stuff if required, so I'm doing more stuff. Or if you don't want to do it, just say no. Revisions would cost extra, or script changes would cost extra. In most cases, the script changes have been small for me, and you don't have to do a whole new read. You just tweak a section and reinsert it and send it back to them, which doesn't take very long to do. I think if they change directions completely, that's a little bit more of a difficult situation. I'm not sure exactly how I would handle that. What would you guys recommend?
I think that would be a good idea to get in conversation with the client and readjust the bid depending on what their needs are.
I think it's pretty much standard practice that you allow for a couple of revisions, but if it starts getting out of hand, then it's like, okay, we need to look at extra compensation here for sure. We are just about out of time. Got a couple more things we do want to address. First off, what is it, in I guess leaving anyone with final thoughts, what is it you love most about the industry?
I love a couple of things about it, but I think I love the opportunity to play. It's like playtime. I'm going to play with my voice and see what I can do every day. It's like a new chance. I know I have a certain style and certain tendencies, but I don't have to be harnessed to that forever. I can explore. I can try to do new things. I can try to shape my voice, and it's like you're making a bunch of new little projects and new little new little creations every day. That's really what I like about it. And I really like connecting with these clients and in some cases taking direction from them. That's fun too. If you end up in a directed session and they're trying to describe what they're looking for and you're trying to adjust your voice on the fly to fit that, that's really fun. It's like this is your instrument and you're trying to play it for them, trying to give them what they need. And when it's done, you feel like that was a good workout. You know?
Any final tips for someone sitting on the fence right now thinking, should I do this?
I would say, if it's a choice between, feeding your cat and doing this and taking the leap, maybe feed your cat. But if you can afford to try it, I would recommend it. It's a pretty enriching experience and, might turn out to be a good job.
Well, Lisa, you know what? It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm sure everybody has enjoyed your story as much as we have. It's been very enlightening. If we didn't get to your questions, we do apologize. I mean, we've had a lot of questions we didn't get to. But, please don't think that this is the end. Reach out to your account manager, whether that's myself or Sean or Katie. If you don't know who your account manager is, just get in touch with us. We'll point you in the right direction. We want to make sure all your questions are answered. We want to thank you again so much, Lisa, for all your time. It's been absolutely amazing.
Thank you guys. This was really fun. It went by in a flash.